So the topic today is trade as a means for developing Africa instead of aid. I mean, I think what we're trying to say, if I'm not mistaken, is that we are not saying that we don't need aid, but I think the focus we have to understand that we cannot become developed through it. We have been receiving aid for, I don't know, the past 50 years. Yes, there are cases where aid is needed, but I think the trade is going to be the main thing that is going to drive us forward in Africa, especially during this time when everyone else is struggling. Look at the numbers in Europe and mostly in Europe, they're quite struggling now in terms of inflation and recession that has been caused by COVID and between Ukraine and Russia. And we think that probably is not going to stop now. We are expecting to continue. Crisis will continue. And we are going to feel the pain. So we need to start thinking different. So I'm going to start straight just introducing Maame. I think probably some of you, the participants, have already looked at your profile. So Maame is a training and business development executive, currently working as a partner at Blackbridge Consulting Group, which is located in Ghana. And she's also a guest lecturer at the Center for Comparative Law in Africa, which in the University of Cape Town. For me, I think Maame has been one of the voice when it comes to SME, the role of SMEs in the development of Africa. So that's what I know about Maame. So maybe Maame, just say hello to us, and then why maybe did you wanted to talk about this topic? Because I know you're passionate about this topic, but why is it something that you really want to bring?
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello to everybody.
Hi.
Hi, I'm fine. I'm interested in everything concerning business and economics. So that's why I'm here now.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so maybe just go ahead, Maame, and let us know why something that you're passionate about.
Okay, so yeah, so my name, as he rightly said, is Maame Awinador-Kanyirige. I'm from Ghana, and you know, I've been in the international trade and you know, development space for a while now. And one of the biggest things for me is that this, like you mentioned, Alfred, earlier, we're in a global economic recession globally, and Ghana is being hit hard. African countries are being hit hard, and you know, when you look at small businesses, I mean, the people who actually contribute so much to economic growth and development are small businesses, and there's an important you know, they contribute to economic growth, they contribute to employment. But now the thing is that beyond small businesses, we are looking at the fact that our economies are, you know, experiencing heavy debt. And the whole question is that, is there a way to move forward in the midst of a recession? And I think that there is an opportunity for Africa, especially, to use this time to actually look within and come up with solutions that have been long put on paper, but never implemented. And so, yes, in a crisis, people actually panic, but I think that this is a crisis of opportunity for our continent to make a difference in the world. Thank you.
Great. So why is it specifically this time, maybe? Why this time specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest things that we need to look at prior to the, you know, the recession happening, there's a lot of, you know, research on the market realizing that agriculture was actually going to be the next big thing. We have now 8 billion people, you know, living on planet Earth. And one of the biggest things is that, is there enough food security to feed people? Because beyond anything, when you had COVID, and then we had the issue of supply chains being disrupted, one of the major things that people always need to eat. So if you know the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You have your basic needs as human beings, right? Shelter, food forms one of them, the basic needs that we have. And so Africa has a huge, vast arable land. And I was just talking to some Dutch people recently. And you know, the Netherlands is like the second highest exporter of foods globally, right?
Yeah.
And it's a small country. They have very little land. And yet a whole continent like Africa with so much land, arable land, is unable to even feed itself. And so agriculture is the future. People will always need food. And in a time when there's a crisis, we need to understand that agriculture has shaped economies like Brazil. It's done great things in Indonesia with palm oil. In South Africa, agriculture has played a key role. And so we need to also know that this is the time when we can feed ourselves as a continent, trade amongst each other, and even now feed the rest of the world, because there's also the realization of climate change. Yeah. And Africa is strategic for that. And so agriculture is one of the major things that positions us to be in a better place to take advantage of what's happening globally. So that's what I would say. Great.
So when we talk about trade agreements, maybe before we start diving into Africa Intertrade, if you look at the trade agreements that we have between Africa and US and Africa and the EU, which are probably the biggest partners at the moment. I know China is coming in slowly. How are African countries positioned in getting the trade agreements that can truly benefit African countries? From my perspective, I've been trading with EU and US for a while, but it does feel like we are exporting most of the time we export raw materials. We're talking about refined minerals, processed agricultural produce, which at the end of the day, they add value and they bring that back to us for us.
Right. No, yeah, true. And one of the things about trade agreements is you also have to realize that we haven't done much with industrialization because the cost of production is so high because of energy costs, right? So one of the biggest issues that has been raised is that, for example, the Grand Inga Dam, what's supposed to be around the Congo, using the Congo River to harness power, has stalled. And the thing is that you cannot go into production without energy. And energy is costly. And so with the trade agreements we have, the sad thing is that you want to trade amongst yourself. You want to trade finished goods, right?
Yeah.
But you need the capacity to do that. And so one of the biggest things for me is that what do we do to even look at other innovative ways of generating energy, right?
Yes.
You know, within our continent. Another thing also is like a lot of the trade agreements with the EU and the US have been based on what the EU or the US want.
Yes.
So they say, okay, we want cocoa from you. We don't want anything else, right?
Yeah,
so focus on producing what we have asked you to produce, which doesn't help you diversify your economy, right?
Yeah.
So, and another thing that comes up is that if you are relying heavily on loans from these countries, you have to do what they tell you. Because at the end of the day, there's politics in trade. So Africa, with our trade agreement, what is so important that we need more unity. We need to speak with one voice on the global market to negotiate.
Yeah.
You're asking to industrialize more. You don't have the capacity. So what you want to do is that you want to also, in your investment agreements, make sure that you negotiate agreements that facilitate partnerships between locals and foreign companies. You're not asking foreign companies come in, produce, and take it away, right? But actually, you want to make sure that if they decide to even leave, your people have the skill, the transfer of technology, they have enough to survive without foreign investors. So the AfCFTA, for one, is the biggest trade agreement that's supposed to take us to the next level, right?
Yes.
But we want to make sure, number one, even the people at the bottom understand it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
You cannot have a sophisticated agreement and then the person selling on the roadside doesn't understand, or the person sending goods from the Kenyan border to Tanzania doesn't understand what it means, right?
Yeah.
So they have to do better in communicating what the agreement represents. Let people understand, you know, the importance of collaborating together. You see, it shouldn't be Kenya versus Tanzania. It should be, how do we collaborate as a region?
Yes.
You know, I think also another last thing I'll add is what they call I forgot the economic word is, but the idea is that you have to look at what your region is good at producing. So in East Africa, when it comes to beef or milk, it's much cheaper to produce than in West Africa, right? So why not help East Africa boost capacity in that area, right? So that they can produce the rest of the continent, right? And then maybe we here can look at what we have, you know, the advantage in. Okay, whether it's the cocoa, it's rice, it's tomatoes, right? When we start specializing in these things, we're not forced to all do the same thing. But rather we are harnessing each other's strengths, right? To be able to trade within and also now begin to compete with China, to compete with the US, right? But the goal of our trade agreement is not for competition among Africans. It should be for collaboration. That's what I think.
That's amazing. So when we talk about, when we look at you talk about AFTA, which now we are the intertrade in Africa is 18%, if I'm not mistaken. That is a statistic for 2020. When you look at North America, 30%, Asia 58%, Europe is 68%. So essentially they are utilizing the intertrade in their continent maximum. So one of the benefits is the job creation. And I know I'm going to touch on this. How much do you think job creation is something that has a massive impact, has an impact in reducing poverty? We are hoping that inter-African trade will create jobs. How essential is it, especially for young people in Africa?
Sorry, thank you for the question. I think that, you know, obviously with data showing that by 2050 we'll have the highest youth population in the world. Ghana, for example, over 50% of our population is actually between the ages of you know, I think 25. I think actually over half the population is within the age bracket of 25 and below, right? So imagine all these young, youthful, exuberant people, they need jobs. But people also have to understand that government is not supposed to create jobs. Government must facilitate an environment for jobs to be created. In fact, so what's supposed to be happening now is that we need to, even with this AFCF, the agreement needs to start informing education, whereby we're training young people not to become job seekers, but job creators. And that means that you are willing to work as a farmer, knowing that farming there's a medical side of farming, whether you're a veterinary doctor taking care of cattle, there's a logistics part, there's so many agriculture, because you see, one of the things is that we shy away from one of the major things that we have, you know, readily accessible, right? So let's say, for example, if you want to solve a problem, you have to look at the long-term, short-term. Within your capacity, the short-term solution is to look at what you can do, right? Now, when it comes to technology, we have advanced, but not as much as the West, right? And other regions of the world. So what we want to do is that what is a low-hanging fruit for us as a people, which is the agriculture part. So now the youth must start looking at, okay, what can I do to be more innovative, right, in my space? We don't have to wait to finish university to start looking for work. You can start becoming useful right even when you are in high school, thinking of different ways to collaborate with your friends, whether you are, hey guys, let's come together. Maybe my family has a piece of land. Okay, you know what? You'll be in charge of piggery. I will be in charge of marketing. I'll be in charge of packaging. But what I mean is that we need to also, beyond the agreement, will create jobs because yes, you are looking at having more factories and stuff. But beyond that, mindset. The agreement cannot work on its own. And so the African people, the youth must be ready for the agreement to work for them. We cannot sit down the agreement will never work for you. The agreement only works for the people who take advantage of it.
That's amazing.
There are many foreign countries coming, right? So what you do with an agreement is like policy. It's like an outfit. You take it and you begin to adjust yourself to fit into it, right? And you must look at what is most realistic now, right? Most achievable now, okay? And I think the most achievable thing now is to say, okay, to create jobs for young people must start thinking differently about what jobs mean. You understand? And so the idea is that you're not finishing school for government to employ you. you are coming up with a mind that I have to begin to be able to create solutions for myself. And if government facilitates that, fine. But if they don't, I will not sit down and wait. Right? Because no one is coming to save you.
Someone needs to hear that.
Yeah, because the world is getting tougher, you know, so we need to prepare for it. Yeah. So
when I was looking at my country, Tanzania, for example, even if I look at East Africa, the conversation around after it's like non-existent. Maybe Jessica will help me later when we start doing questions. And I was just really surprised. And I remember I was watching you and what's his name from Impact, and I could see there's so much conversation that was going on in Ghana about after, and I was looking back in East Africa, there was like zero. And so do you think the government, is it the responsibility of the government to raise awareness on this, or is it the private sector, or is it NGOs who should be raising awareness? Because it's actually a massive opportunity, and we should all be.
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, government must be doing something, but I think that I've told myself moving forward that the government is not an external entity from who I am. I am a fraction of that government. And so the more citizens feel like government is this external body, they feel weaker and powerless. But if we are government, that means that civil society, right? The church, religious bodies, everybody must be involved. Why am I saying this? When you have entered an economic crisis, that there's no time to look at who should be responsible. Everybody must be a partaker of it. Everybody has a role to play in this vehicle, right? Whether you are the one driving the car, whether you're the one wiping the windshield, whatever it is, everybody has a role to play. If we sit back and say, well, government didn't do its part, right? That's why I'm poor. Well, I guess what? I don't have enough time to sit there and now wait to say, okay, what am I going to blame? So I really feel like as Africans now, we must take our destiny into our own hands, recognizing that government is not an external entity. It is not a building. It's not a body. It's actually not even politicians. It's the people. And the people are only as powerful as the knowledge that they have. And that is why in the absence of knowledge, you have room to also inform yourself. And that is why also those who have information have a responsibility to also pull others along with them. Yes. And that's why sometimes it's not always about even selling information or stuff. Sometimes even forums like this that create the awareness, it's also playing a part. It may seem insignificant, right? Yes. But nothing is ever insignificant in actually creating an ocean, you know? It's just little drops. But beyond talking, yes, it's about action, right? Yeah. Yeah. And so as some of us, maybe our gift is speaking, right? Yeah. But those whose gift is actually doing the work must be empowered to do the work. And I think that, so is it government's responsibility? Absolutely. But this is also civil society's responsibility? 100%. NGOs? Definitely. Is it your responsibility of you as a family to be informed? Absolutely. You must prepare your kids for the economic crisis that we are in as a continent, because it's going to get harder. So we are all involved. And I think that if we are all playing our part to inform ourselves and then collaborate and work together, we will find a way to move forward in this argument. So
that's really good. So when we talk about value adding, you talked about we not being able to. Obviously, we have energy crisis at the moment, but when we look at, there are some of the things we can still do a value add. When you look at Ghana, how much cocoa has been exported. I wonder if do you need a lot of energy to be able to process some of the cocoa in places in Ghana or even in another African country, because the amount of value that is wasted by not adding value. For example, another simple example is coffee. I was involved in coffee at some point, and roasting coffee, you know, it's not a heavy industrial activity. However, we tend to export raw coffee, and then it gets processed in Europe, and then they charge 4 to 5 times the amount that. So is that something that probably we should be looking at, value adding for our produce?
Oh yeah, I mean value add, of course, because obviously now when things have more value, they are more effective, right? They cost more. I mean, you can get more revenue in terms of foreign exchange from value added goods. But beyond that, let's say you talk about cocoa for one. Ghana is now trying to actually do better in the chocolate production. But I think that one of the things about chocolate and even producing chocolate for one, let's say, if you look at Lindt chocolate, some of the top chocolate brands that do really well, they have a huge portion of milk. Now in Ghana, we don't produce milk. So our chocolate and our cocoa is actually very natural. It is healthy, but it's not we don't have a lot of diversity in the kind of chocolate that we produce here. So even Ghanaians don't really patronize local chocolate as much as maybe they should, because it's not as refined as you would want it to be. So it tastes good, but when you try other brands, they do taste, maybe a lot better because they found other innovative ways, right?
Yeah.
But actually on a smaller scale, some small businesses are coming up with innovative ways to add value to chocolate, but not on a large scale. And that's why I always tell people that collaboration. You don't have to do it alone. The CEO mentality is a false mentality, in the sense that if in partnering you end up with 1%, but you end up making more profit, you are better off. And so we need to you look at, let's say, for example, America, and you look at craft. So the whole idea of the history of how the Oreo came into being, right? They're looking at over multiple biscuit, group families coming together to create a company, right? Also associations like that. And so people will see Oreos and think, oh, Oreos, wow, was there somebody who came up with the idea? No. It was different, small biscuit groups that came together. Formed the association, created a company, and started producing biscuits, right? Because at the end of the day, when you do not have money, guess what happens? Sometimes the best substitute for lack of funds is actually partner with other people. And that's what people are pushing for more now, collaboration. Even globally, there has to be collaboration. We cannot do it alone. And so to reduce cost of production, so value-added goods are so important, but now you need to start collaborating with other people. So even if it's soap making, in Ghana, we have a local soap called the black soap, African soap, black soap, people use in other parts of the world, or even the shea butter that Ole uses. And I said, my goodness, well, guess what? Why are we struggling to compete on a local market? You have over 100 people making shea. That's crazy. No, partner with another local. What would your share companies partner with other local soap making companies and start competing with L'Oreal or all of these top cosmetic brands. That's where your mind should be, than struggling on a small market. And so value added goods is important, but you need to be able to partner with other people to reach economies of scale and enhance your capacity.
So I know we talk about SMEs quite a lot. My feeling is the governments in Africa, or even other stakeholders in Africa, who can actually build capacity for SMEs. They don't feel, or they don't see it SMEs as being able to play a key role in development of Africa. Do you think that caused by lack of understanding of the role of SMEs, or is that something that we're just being bombarded so much with investments coming, $2 billion coming from, I don't know, from Shell for oil, and this investment from US and that investment from, is that something that is, because that we do more publicity on that, less publicity on what we are actually doing on the ground to improve SMEs. We've already we came out of independence for years. We don't have international companies in Africa, enough international companies. All this time, what have we been building when it comes to our own businesses?
Right. I mean, when it comes to small businesses, governments do know that SMEs actually make up, SMEs and MSMEs make up close to 70 to 80% of businesses in the continent, and actually are the ones who create most of the jobs. So not necessarily even foreign companies. It's actually these small businesses that do. So one of the things I think is that makes it seem as if SMEs are insignificant is the development trajectory in the continent. What do I mean by that? Our idea of development is a top-down approach. That means that big company come and employ our people, but rather it's supposed to be bottom up. Now, what do I mean by bottom up? Bottom up now begins to look at the small business that was now maybe only able to produce, for example, just a raw example, maybe employ only 2 people can now employ 10 people. Yay, we made progress. But a lot of our policies are to say, let's attract foreign investors. When they come in, they're looking at profit. So of course, you shy away from foreign investment. No, but it has to be strategic. And that means that before you look at foreign investments, look at where your small businesses are, what they need first. Yeah, when you are bringing in foreign investment is only coming to enhance your small businesses, because they're not coming in to do anything new. They're only coming in to add on to what's already going on. And so you now facilitate, you actually encourage partnerships through investment agreements.
Yes. So
SMEs are extremely critical, but development in the continent always focuses on what I call like aesthetics. So nice buildings are coming up.
Yeah.
Now you have KFC, you have McDonald's. People just are looking more at that.
Yeah.
We are looking at development in terms of how can we look more like Europe, or how can we look more like America? Not how do we look more like Africa based on what we define development to be.
Yeah.
And true development is the dignity of your people, that they have their basics, right? That they can afford their basics, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is secondary, right?
Yeah.
You have to build from the foundation first.
Yeah.
Food, shelter, those fundamentals must be there, right? And development must look the way the African believes it should look like. And have we ever asked ourselves, what does development look like for the African? It may not be skyscrapers. It could be nice buildings too, using our local materials. They don't have to reach the sky. They don't have to have elevators to be worthy of being infrastructure, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is when we are authentic in what we call development, we can actually begin to look at the people who matter, and that's the SMEs. So
someone needs to hear these things. I'm really enjoying this. I had someone was posting some buildings in Dar es Salaam, which they look very nice. But my point was, I was trying to point other things actually probably we should be thinking about. And definitely there's an attitude towards having nicer building. That means you are developing. And I give an example of one of the universities. I will not mention the name. And basically what the government did, they built several amount of buildings for that university. And at the end of the day, those buildings are empty. So there's no one there. There's no one using those departments, or those what the purpose of those buildings have not been fulfilled. But actually there's a sense that you feel that, you know, those who are in charge, they're happy that they have managed to build these amazing buildings and so on. So we need to start shifting from that physical infrastructure to actual to an infrastructure that actually. So when one thing I would like to ask, when we talk about SMEs, I've noticed that we don't have means of bringing the voice together. And in other places, you would find SMEs would have trade associations and similar kind of organizations where SMEs can actually be able to voice their voice. So is that, if I look at my country specifically, we have chambers of commerce, but when I check the organization that are in chambers of commerce, most of them are large organizations. So at the end of the day, it does make me feel that I don't know if it's actually a question of association. Do you think people for SME be able to mobilize themselves so that they can have one voice? You know, regional, country-wise, regional-wise.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they need to. They don't have a choice because the times make it very necessary. I know in Ghana we have a bunch of associations, but the question is that how active are they? How viable? Some of them are, but the trade unions and they're not as effective because unfortunately in our continent sometimes you even have politics seeping into some of these groups, right? And so it becomes very tricky because now maybe there's a particular political party in power. People don't want to offend anyone, ruffle feathers. And so it becomes difficult to become very well, for lack of a better word, but they are not as vibrant as you want them to be. But one of the great good important things that people need to understand is that the power of association, they can be very effective. And so that has to be encouraged more, as an alternative, especially with the AFCFTA, because you're going to have other products coming into your country. And when they do come in and you have a case, let's say, for example, you're in Tanzania, you're trying to ship your product to Nigeria, for example, your product gets to the border, you're having issues with the product because maybe Nigeria is trying to protect its rice industry, for example, and you're exporting rice, and then maybe they treat your product unfairly. Not just you, they keep doing it to other people who are exporting rice. The AFCFTA agreement does not allow for you to bring a case as an individual against Nigeria. So you must do it through your state. And that is why associations are so important, because within the association level, you have more agency. Associations can now put more pressure on government, right, to enter into talks to resolve this. And that's why I even think that the FCFTA should not be copying the WTO, but rather it should actually make sure that every region, every district has a small trade office. Also online, we need to have platforms so people can bring up their cases very fast. So if all the people, maybe you are in the cotton space, you're having problems, okay, there's a platform where you can go and raise your case that same day that, look, I'm having this issue. So you have intermediaries consistently working, and that can be done on the association level so that issues can be, carried across to their, respective bodies on time, right? So yeah, I mean, associations are going to be very crucial in what is, in the coming months and years concerning, to help trade, because we'll have a lot of trade disputes if associations are not as, active. Because as an individual, you can never raise a claim against the state. So you need to do that through a body, and associations will be very vital in this time. So hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna turn my attention to participants. If anyone has a question to ask Maame, I don't want to be the only one who is enjoying this. You can unmute yourself and go ahead. I think Jessica, you want to ask something? Go ahead.
Not really a question. Hi, Alfred. Hi, Maame. I just wanted to share my views on the insightful session that I've heard, and thank you very much for your great insights. And I totally agree with regards to we as Africans really taking initiatives to develop our own products rather than having to export raw materials, then buy those products back, which again is not good for the development of our economies. So yeah, I really enjoyed your great insights. And as you said, the way I see it, the lack of capital issue can also be resolved by collaboration. And you've been emphasizing on that a lot. And as SMEs, that's an area where SMEs in Africa can really focus on, leveraging their strengths to come together and contribute towards developing each other. And Alfred, as you emphasized, yes, in Tanzania, mainly in the chambers of commerce or organizations, associations here, business associations, there aren't much of SMEs, so to say. We only see large organizations, but yet nobody's really doing much or enough to really, focus on developing these SMEs. And as you also mentioned, with regard to the AFCTA, not much awareness really has been done in the country, unless maybe you are following up as some of us are. But yeah, there needs to be some sort of awareness. And I know an organization, Trademark, is doing that in the country, but more efforts need to be done there to see how Tanzania can collaborate with other African countries, you know, as we develop the economy. Yeah. So thank you very much for your insights and for the wonderful session.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Question, suggestion? So while, okay, yes, go ahead.
I think Mariette, I don't know if she's speaking. Maybe her mic is muted, so she can.
You're muted. Let me ask her to.
Okay, can I speak?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, it's muted again.
You have muted again. You have muted yourself again. Now you're okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to comment that although the major investors are seen to be more important to the government, but if the small SMEs are joined together, they may bring more revenue to the government than even those large investors which we are looking for. That is my comment.
Absolutely.
That's very true. So just one more question, Maame, if you allow me.
Yes.
Digital connectivity, how much role does that play in our patient?
So I think, I mean, it's important because obviously now we've been pushed into the fourth revolution, that there's so much like digital, the digital revolution has happened, and it's like we all have to catch up. I know that one of the biggest things with payment systems, right? How to make payments very easy, especially because of trade. So if I want to pay for something, maybe my product, I'm purchasing something from or selling something across the continent, across countries or regions, right? I should be able to do it easy. That's why I think the AFCFT has come up with this PayPass, system where you can actually make payments in your own currency without having to transfer it, to convert it into dollars first. So more payments, easier systems that make payments easy is very important, and even transferring of money. We need to be able to have our banks more interconnectivity within banks. So if I want to transfer money, it'll be easier. Because obviously for financial transfer and stuff, it's also key for trade, being able to move money easily within the continent is important. And I think one of the last things is also with agriculture. The digital element can play a very key role when you're looking at things like just things that will make farming easier and even more attractive for young people. A lot of young people don't want to go into farming because it seems so archaic with old machinery and stuff. But with the digital revolution, for example, we are looking at innovative ways to even sit at home and monitor what's happening on your farm, whether it's using drones or just new digital technology that has come up to make farming more interesting, or what young people will say cool. There are ways to partner with, because a lot of young people come up with innovative ideas. And so how do you catch those young people before other people catch them, and take their ideas? Intellectual property is also so important, because many times young people come up with ideas and then people steal the ideas. They don't have enough capacity to even fight a case like that. And that's why I even raised the important point that everybody has to be involved. The lawyers have to be there. China has multiple intellectual property courts. We need those courts even in our district level so that people can bring up claims about stolen ideas, right? So that at least people can protect their ideas, and then we can utilize them locally to help enhance, as I keep saying agriculture, but I'm saying it because people limit agriculture to just the food part, right? But it comes to textiles, right? Clothing. It cuts across so many things, medicines, right? Everything is in there somewhere. So we do need digital revolution to help enhance that. We have local medicines, a lot of medicines here, but they haven't been enhanced enough, right? To be able to improve our research to say, okay, this is good for malaria, this is this. And the pharmaceutical space, a lot of pharmaceuticals take their natural plants from our continent.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Right. So I think that, like you said, digitization is important. We must be realistic about where we are, in the sense that we shouldn't allow it to lock and leave some people out.
Yeah.
But we should also see how best we can use it to make life easier for our people. So a lot of training is needed on the, on the lower level, in the local language, especially to help people understand. But now with young people, young people in technology, they seem to be more at rest.
They're way ahead of us.
Compared to,
Yeah.
So, but it's important. Digital skills will be needed to be able to enhance value-added product and make agriculture also easier on a large scale. So.
We have very few minutes. I'm just gonna ask something quickly. Do you want to say something, Boya? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for that. I was just asking about. I'm more interested in agriculture. So how, as Africa, we can use we can use our agro-processing. We can enhance our agro-processing industry so that we can take advantage of the African continental free trade. Because I believe this is the area where it's our strength in Africa, and Africa has a large market. If we enhance our agro-processing industries, so that we can take advantage of the African continental free trade.
That's true.
So how do we enhance our agro-processing industries?
So one of the biggest things, I can't speak for every nation. One of the biggest things too is that nationally, people have different national policies and stuff when it comes to that. But let's say, for example, Ghana, I know a bunch of young people who had finished college, and they came up with this company, and they make their own machines. They get a lot of the parts, they source a lot of parts locally, but a few of them come from China. But then they have threshers. I think they won an award somewhere in Rwanda. They have even a machine that helps with packaging. They're able to actually design their own machine. It's not easy, but they are doing it on a small scale. And so people like this need help. And I noticed that a lot of times when it comes to funding even ideas locally, a lot of the investment we look at in the continent is always, someone coming from Europe or the US or Asia, right? And I was like, man, you can have a Tanzanian investing in a business somewhere in Ghana or in Mali, right?
Yeah.
And I think that so with the agro-processing, for example, because people say the machinery is expensive, okay? There are things like crowdfunding, and I've been encouraging that if we can have crowdfunding platforms, because with crowdfunding, what it says is that maybe I need a machine to maybe help me boost the production of maybe my beans or something, but I cannot afford the machine, okay? So with a crowdfunding platform, maybe I need $1 million, okay? Then I'm like, I open a platform up to all Africans, and you're thinking, okay, then how do we all invest in this particular venture? Looking at the fact that maybe this beans factory can lead to so many other things. We need to open up and democratize funding in the continent. That's why agro-processing is not doing well, because people do want to go into it, but it's costly. But when you democratize funding, you're no longer saying, someone bring me 1 million. You can raise money locally. I'm saying that the sad thing about us is that we always think that there's no money. It's because we're looking at a huge sum first. But if crowdfunding has done great things in Ghana, people have been able to fund medical bills because somebody was just bringing something small. So if everybody has a stake in it, we are all investing across the continent, I think that it will help so much in that industry, because there are people who want to even start paper factories. But now now I need to get a machine, I have to bring it from China. Maybe someone can make the machine, but he needs a few parts. Okay, what do we do to help support this? Invest in that, you all have a stake in it, you move forward. So I think that being able to rethink financing will help. because that's one of the biggest gaps that we are having. And maybe financing being able to be looked at differently. That it's not so much that we need to wait for someone, investor from outside. I believe that there are people sitting on the continent on huge sums of money, and I actually don't know what to do with it. How do we tap into that market and say, look, you can have a stake in this, and maybe I may not even have so much money, but maybe 50 people like me can help raise that money that would turn things around somewhere. And so I think that rethinking financing will help us to be able to. That's why I said the times that we are entering, we are going to be compelled to look within. And that's the only way we can move forward, because globally there is a recession. And so, I mean, like you rightly asked, agro-processing, people do want to go into it. It's just that it's not cheap. And so, but if you're able to find innovative financing, I think that we'll be able to do that. Whether it's with government's help or not, we must not wait for them to do something. Private sector, we can begin to say, one thing, hey, nothing is too small. Let's try and turn things around in our country. So,
that's amazing.
That's really good. Thanks for that.
So I mean, because we started a few minutes late, maybe I can squeeze in one last question. So for a small business, yes,
right.
For small business owner with selling product, how can they test the EFCTA after for their product, just to do like a trial of sending a product from let's say Kenya to Ghana, because we have seen some of the companies they have done.
Yes, they had a trial recently. I think 8 countries took part. So there was Kenya, Ghana.
Yeah.
Right. And so I am in Ghana, for example. If you want to do that, there are some key organizations that you have to go to, because you have to go and get your rules of your certificate of origin, like so that the certificate that proves that your product is actually from that market was produced where you are. So there are certain procedures you must follow. So all you have to do is that if you want to do a trial, we'll go online. And that's why sometimes if the profit you get on the product is not that big, then I wouldn't recommend that you go through all that trouble. Why? Because it may become a sign. I mean, you need to go and prove that your product, let's say, for example, you get your maybe but material for one, let's say from China, but you made a belt so the leather came from, like, rough example, the leather came from China, you made a belt in Ghana, maybe you sold the belt in Ghana, you had the buckle maybe was brought from Indonesia or something, okay? And then you send it to Nigeria to be put together, right? So there are ways to test whether your product is actually a Ghanaian product or not. And then you need to be able to bring in your certificate of origin. And sometimes that's what people actually encourage. Even in the EU, they'll tell you that if what you're going to get, because you're doing all of this because you want your thing to go duty-free, right? In the early stages, because the agreement has not really taken off effectively, I would say, hey, go for the trial if you know that you have the excess time and maybe funds to actually go through that kind of stress. But I think that in the interim, it's also good to give it a trial so you can see what the issues are. And then associations can begin to raise and say, hey, look, we tried to trade this product. This is not working. And that's what they call it. In law, they call it improving the jurisprudence. So the more you actually have problems, the more you know where to fix the issue, right? Like a relationship, right? So the more you have disputes, you know where your issues are and when you guys need help. And so the AFCFTA will only work well when we know where the problem hiccups are.
Yeah.
And that's why I think maybe even before you do trade, make sure you're part of an association. So when you have some problem, you can raise your issue. But if it's just you and you go and have a problem with the trade, like while you're trading your soap, okay, so what do you do next? You can go and complain, but on the association level, you're having this issue. Okay, let's take it up and raise it so our government can know that there's a problem like this happening. So things like that would be helpful. But yeah, there are some procedures you must follow. Every country is different, so you must know what the rules will be in China. I said China, maybe Tanzania. Or share what the rules will be for textiles. You need to know that. And then the website, they are still developing the website. The AFCFTA website. So it will come to, I don't know, as at last month, I haven't checked this month, sorry. they're supposed to be, they hadn't get done it, but when you go, you type in the product you want and the country you want to send to, and they'll tell you whether you get duty or not. So they are working on that to make it more easy for you to have information. Great. So I recommend that you explore the website and see.
That's I will have a look at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maame. I don't know. I think I enjoyed it, and I think those who have left, they enjoyed it, as well as Leodga and Boya.
Thank you very much. Very insightful.
Thank you, Boya. You also for listening.
So thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
You,
Asante, karibu sana.
Yes.
And that is our language. I think you know a bit of Swahili now.
Yeah, my parents actually got married in Kenya. Very interesting. My best friend is Tanzanian. And so for me, you know, it's like I'm all out, you know, very passionate about the continent. So I have an appreciation for everything here.
Great.
So hopefully you guys come to Ghana sometime if you haven't been.
I definitely want to come to Ghana. I want to come to Ghana. I do. I haven't yet come to Ghana, but I do want to.
They're wonderful. You should connect with me when you're in town.
Yes, I will definitely do that. So thank you so much again. I'm repeating myself, but yeah, thank you so much for this. I think probably I am hoping that I will have something closer to this in future. Bringing you back again here, talking about SMEs, because we still have lots of things to discuss, but we don't have enough time. So I wish everyone all the best, and let us continue building SMEs in Africa, and let us continue building each other.
Okay, all the best. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfred.
Bye. Bye.